Here we go. I'm sorry, we're a little bit late to class, everybody, but that's how it
You're
goes.
goofing off in the hallway.
Yeah, smoking, playing hacky sack, all that good stuff.
Yeah. Oh man.
Those were the days.
Kitley, John, you were a good hacky sack player, I imagine.
No,
Really?
I never. That was past my time.
Wow.
Wait, what are you saying?
I was many years out of school when that became cool.
Come on, it wasn't that. Anyway,
but
you weren't on the cutting edge.
You at least understand the reference, which is a good thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was like, "You punk kids."
What?
Never mind. Nothing.
All right. Well, we're not here to talk about hacky sack. As lovely as that would be, we are here to talk about. I thought this was going to be a biology class. Turns out it's about botany, because when I first heard the title, "The Case of the Bloody Iris," I thought, was this going to be something about like eyeball or something like that? No, it's about flowers, but it's not even about flowers. There's so many red herrings in this movie that it's we're going to talk about it. And why are we talking about it? I mean, we were going to go every other month on this thing. We already had a show last month. We're back already. It's shameless. I'll admit it, because the fine folks at a newer company called Celluloid Dreams reached out and said, "Hey, would you be interested in talking about The Case of the Bloody Iris? It's recently out on 4K. And I'm like, sure. And so we're here to talk about that. Here it is, The Case of the Bloody Iris. Woo! It's on 4K. It's a great package. I mean, there's interviews, but the highlight for me is a commentary by Guido Henkel, who's actually the person who reached out to me to ask about this. And I listened to, I think I missed the last like 20 minutes of it, because today went in no way the direction I thought it was going to. So I lost the opportunity to finish it. But the first hour and 15 minutes I listened to were my favorite kind of audio commentary, because it's not just like, and then this happened, and then this happened. Lots of historical context, lots of cultural context, and not to mention tidbits about filming the movie, which is always appreciated. So for that alone, I think it's worth checking it out from Celluloid Dreams, as well as if you buy it direct from the distributor, and as opposed to like Amazon, they're going to send you these crazy like lobby card reproductions. What? Yeah, wow. Like these huge 11x17 glossy cardstock deals. They're great, and I can't show some of them on the live stream here.
Even better,
as you might expect. Yeah, but let's get into this movie. And just to warn you, we might disrupt class if Brian Martinez can surf on in here, because he's having some technical difficulties. If he can't, then Brian, we love you, and we'll catch you next time. But we're holding the door open for you. But, well, let's get into it. I am Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat. We have AC Aaron Christensen of Horror 101 with Dr. AC, and the proprietor, the keeper of Kitley's Crypt, John Kitley. So welcome, gentlemen. I'm excited to talk about this movie. I don't know if you guys are. What's your
I'm excited to hear about this commentary. I'm excited to hear about this commentary, because I was watching and I was like, wow, there's so much going on in this. There's so many familiar faces from Jolly that we've seen before. And I don't know this director, and it just kind of like, this one just kind of dropped in there with George Hilton and Edwige Fenech as our headliners. And I was like, wow, okay.
But you do know the writer. Did that name stick out to you at all?
I didn't even look to see who the writer was.
The writer of The Case of the Bloody Iris is Ernesto Gestaldi.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Who also gave us All the Colors of the Dark.
Yes. He wrote pretty much half the Gialli we've covered.
Yes. And so that's why I didn't realize that until I was listening to the audio commentary, because unfortunately, even though we've been doing this show for years, there are some names that just pop up. And I'm like, Italian guy or Italian gal. The staples, unfortunately, I think of the people that stick out, like with names like George Hilton. But Edwige Fenech, of course, has become, the hallmark of Giallo for me, and certainly for Brian, who will be here soon, I hope. But listening to that commentary, and it brings up all these other films that we have talked about, as you mentioned, AC, it really underscored what I thought was cool and very special about this movie. Even though those other films were written or directed by various people, this one is directed by Giuliano Garnameo. I've not said that name out loud. I've just read it. And another person I'm not familiar with. But I think the style of this movie is one of the things that really saves it in a lot of kind of wonky storytelling aspects up until that last like 20 minutes where I think it really becomes memorable. So I'm done rambling. I want to hear what you guys have to say about these flowers / eyeballs.
Well, as you point out, I didn't see Ernesto Gestaldi because I was looking at what the other name for Case of the Bloody Iris was, because I was like, have I heard of this? And it's, what are those drops of blood doing on Jennifer's body? And I was like, that's a great title. Why aren't we watching that movie? Wait, we are.
I just got hung up on Jennifer's body, because then I started wondering if that movie had some kind of an homage to this movie, stuck in it. But I will say maybe this is a good place to open it up. Although I didn't. No, I'm all over the place. Sorry. Was this the first time you'd watched this, AC?
The first time I'd watched it, yes.
Okay. How about you, Kitley?
I don't know. I remember seeing the photos of Edwige when she's got her top painted on in some reference book, and went, I need to see that movie. But when I watched it within the last couple of weeks, I don't remember it. So I don't know if I'd seen it, but I know I was looking for it because of that particular shot.
Because of the quality of the painting and for no other reason, of course.
Well, yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to set the table.
Artistic painting, that's not easy to do. And yeah, I mean, come on.
Well, I got to say, I had sort of a similar dilemma when I sat down to watch this movie, because it started and I couldn't. I think it might be because of the De Palma connection to Dress to Kill with the whole elevator bit. I'm like, this feels very familiar. Oh my God, have I made a horrible mistake that we've already reviewed this movie, discussed it? So I went back through Kicking the Seats history. I'm like, fortunately, no, this is all new, because again, it's Edwige Fenech, it's George Hilton. We've talked about movies they've been in together, but no, this is a new experience for me, and also new territory. It also doesn't help that one of the other actresses that shows up in this movie also appears in Torso, but she has a much meatier part, and she's introduced very early on in the film. The actress's name, and I want to get this correct.
Carla Brait.
Carla Brait playing Mizar. There was a part of me that wished she was the main character and Edwige was sort of the red herring, like, oh, she's going to be at the beginning and not the rest of it. Because in the few minutes she's on screen, huge impression.
Sure.
Speaking of huge impressions, sorry, we got to let this guy in.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, hey.
You came in costume. I don't know if you realize this, Brian, but we can't see you at all.
Can you tell how backlit you are?
I mean, it's kind of.
It's totally fitting. Don't change a thing.
Wow. This is kind of cool. So yeah, just don't change a thing, Brian. This is your punishment for being late to class. No, I kid, because I know you're having.
Is he testifying against somebody?
Exactly. He's witness protection now. He's the killer.
I'm gonna try some things with the lighting, but you guys.
Oh man.
Oh, there you are. If you lean in real close, we can see you.
Or you can lean back out.
All right. So let's just. Okay. So Brian, we're doing the. Have you seen this, and how many times have you seen it? Is Case of the Bloody Iris new to you? I would expect no, because you're the Edwige Fenech super fan. Is that a VHS? I can't tell.
So this is a box set that came out years ago. It's called the Giallo collection. This is where I first saw it. So that was during my whole like, oh my God, like this Edwige Fenech movie is crazy. Like, is there any more or whatever? That's back when I watched All the Colors of the Dark. And then I pieced it together that I watched that movie when I was like 10 years old or whatever. So after that, it was like I was on the hunt for more of these types of films. And this film to me, like, and then like, actually, hold on, fast forward. And then this came out. This is like,
yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
We just.
So good. This movie to me is like, if that's funny. If if you're hosting like a Giallo party, like theme party, this is the one that I would suggest to have in the background playing on loop or whatever. It just, to me, it has all the hallmarks. It's what I love about Giallo. There's a lot of cool things that they do with the red herring stuff. There's a lot of cool stuff that they do with like this psychosexual stuff. Edwige is great. I love the high fashion in this movie. All the outfits that she wears is great. The music is great. I love Bruno Nicolai's. Whenever he shows up, I just love his musical choices to score certain scenes and whatnot. I think some of the usual suspects are here in the cast. You got but like when you watch a lot of these, you'll see like, oh my god, like that's the dude that played the professor in this one, or played the doctor in this one, or this is the dude that was all the way back in whatchamacallit. Geez, I'm blanking, but like it's all these familiar faces, and I love that about it. I love the tone of it. I love that it's like if you watch the opening where it's the prostitute or whatever going up to the apartment building, and she's in the elevator, and then you watch Brian De Palma's like you see like where some directors like, oh, that's a great scene, let me just kind of pop it into my thing or whatever. I realize I'm scatterbrained, but I just wanted to share with you guys what this, like it's not the greatest, like it's not, I don't rank it as,
but
like,
it's the greatest hits.
Exactly. Like that's how
greatest hits. You kind of ran your words together there a second, AC, and I just wanted people to know
either one applies
about here. Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Sorry, go ahead.
But no, this movie is great to me. I love the opening score. It's one of those scores that I just kind of keep in my one of my playlists, and it just pops up or whatever. But like it's just to me, it's a comfort Giallo. I wanted to get back to this kind of discussion, like this kind of film, because I realized we were kind of all over the place at some points where it was like, is this a Giallo? Is this not a Giallo? Like this to me, like just screams.
Well,
like I had to wear
hold on a second,
my Giallo shirt because
like
this is, to me, this is like eating a Raisin Bran on a Sunday afternoon kind of.
Raisin Bran. Okay, but I got to ask you, Kitley, because we've made this mistake before of talking about a Giallo movie, and then you'll say, "Wait, this isn't really Giallo." So I defer to you, sir.
Me?
Yeah, is this Giallo?
Yeah, I would call it. Yeah.
Okay, good.
We can continue now. I didn't realize I was the go-to guy.
You are the arbiter of taste here.
Oh wow.
Or by the way, the gatekeeper of what Giallo is and what is.
Although, funny enough, I just want to throw this in really quick. The movie last month that caused all the consternation, Girl in Room 2A, the star of that movie, Daniela Giordano, is the woman in the phone booth at the very end of this movie. And I was like, how wonderfully connective is that?
It's perfect. The fates have aligned. I don't realize her last name was Giordano. Love the pizza. Anyway,
let's go.
Maybe, but Brian, I just got to say, speaking of gateways, you alternately look like you are the killer in this movie, and like you're about to ascend to the next plane of existence, because your background, like right now, it's pure blown out white, and I feel like you're gonna lean back into the Stargate. This is great. All right. So what is this movie about? 15 minutes in, the case of the Bloody Iris. AC, I've keyed it up for you.
Well, I tell you what, this is a tough one to synopsize, right? Because we've got a murder, and then the apartment's vacated, and George Hilton plays Andrea, who is looking to get some new tenants in. And that's where our Edwige Fenech's character, Jennifer, and her roommate, Marilyn, they decide they'll take it on after Carla, our striptease / wrestler. I love that that's her striptease act, is that it's a wrestling match and it's a striptease. But Carla Braid, who's also from Torso, she is murdered, and then the two of them move in. Going to your comment, Ian, I'm actually glad that she wasn't the star, because we would have had so many more racist comments throughout the entire movie had she decided to be the star. I was like, wow, what was it? Like, everybody wants a black girl, especially one as attractive as such as that. I was like, okay,
it's like every character who's around when she's alive, and I think even after she's dead, it has a comment. It is weird black exoticism that I just feel like it was Italy, it was the times, that kind of a thing. But I had to keep saying that. Right.
Let me just add to that. It's not just her character, but even it's the policeman, the chief, because he makes a comment towards I can't remember her character's name, but the daughter of the professor.
Right. Yeah.
Who's gay, saying that all of your wasted talents on, you're like, wow, okay. All right.
We need you to fit into this lane, everybody. Just get into that lane and stay there.
So there's a few things in here that you're going, wow, that wouldn't fly today.
He was just trying to acknowledge that she had talents. But yeah,
I could read the Anchor Bay synopsis.
Are you saying that I failed, Brian?
Yeah, apparently.
No, I'm
not doing. No, please.
Because you did say this is a hard one to synopsize.
I did, but okay. So let's hear what Anchor Bay had to say.
Back in, I don't even know when this one came out.
I do like that box set.
2002. This set came out in 2002, which is crazy. So, when two women are viciously slain in a luxury high-rise, a beautiful young model, played by Edwige Fenech, of $5 for an August moon, moves into one of their vacated apartments and soon finds out that she is now being stalked by the mysterious killer. The suspects include her ex-husband, a member of the group sex cult, which is another crazy aspect of this movie, a predatory lesbian neighbor, which is, I don't know, I think that's bonkers.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe a certain lens we're seeing that.
Right. The deformed son of a sinister widow, and even the building's handsome architect, George Hilton, a massacre type. It's interesting that they went to massacre type.
Okay, massacre? Yeah, interesting.
Who suffers from a paralyzing fear of blood.
Yep.
Can she expose the masked maniac with a taste for luscious women and depraved murder before she becomes his next victim?
Tune in to find out.
Right?
She exposes a lot.
We should watch that next time.
Yeah. Now, okay, Kitley, I'm getting this vibe for you that you weren't on the wavelength of this movie. What did you think of The Case of the Bloody Iris?
No, I think it's a perfect entry into the Giallo, because there's a lot of shit in here that makes no sense. Right in the beginning, the girl gets in the phone booth, says, "I'll be right up," and then walks across half the city. Usually you call when you're outside, not, hey.
She was outside.
Come right up.
Maybe it's
and then we see her.
Place,
She's literally walking across the city.
Yeah, maybe she was calling her as like a heads up, like, hey, I'm on my way.
And then in the opening murder, without getting, we are talking spoilers? Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
The killer gets out of the elevator in room on floor 16. She goes up to 20 and discovered that she's dead. The professor comes there. Oh my God. So he just ran up 4 flights of stairs.
Yeah. Hey, you've seen that guy? That guy is why we train. Okay. He is aging well.
Right?
Okay.
Like, he beats the crap out of George Hilton at the end. I was
now,
I just had a few issues with some of the, but again,
if that's what you
can I finish, Brian? Can I finish? Okay, thank you. That is why this is a perfect entry into a Giallo, because there are several things that don't make sense in traditional storytelling.
Yep.
I'm not saying that as a criticism. It's just that's the way some Giallos are, where 1 + 1 doesn't always equal 2.
I would venture to say that that's the way a lot of Jolly.
Yeah.
Right. But here's the thing, Kitley, and see if we're kind of meshing here, because my reaction to everything that you said is like spot on. But in the moment when I'm watching that opening scene, I think it's so very well done, even though it is, I'll call it pre-reminiscent of Dressed to Kill. It's unfair because I'd seen that movie recently and that came after this, but you can't help thinking about it if you've seen it.
Yep.
It was so well done that even at the end, I didn't think about, he would have had to, that old guy would have had to make that, wheezing trek up those other stairs to pop up and say, oh my gosh, what happened? But the one thing that I didn't pick up on until I listened to the audio commentary, which was very helpful, when she gets into the elevator, she presses the button for floor 5.
Right.
And yet she goes way past floor 5. Although these other people are getting on and coming off and getting on and coming off. So there's continuity errors all over the place. So, and I can't believe I'm saying this because you guys know me. I'm the student in the back of the classroom saying, wait a second, none of this makes any sense. And you're like, just go with it. In this movie, I totally went with it, even though, yes, there are problems, but they're the kind of problems that I pick up on later because I think the momentum of the story and the performances and all that stuff really carried me through. Maybe I'm alone here. I don't know.
Isn't that great, everybody? It sounds like that little circuit in Ian's brain has burned out and he's able to just go Giallo style.
I think it helped that I saw Deadpool Wolverine a few weeks ago, so all my synapses are just like gone.
And AC, I remember, like, it's funny that you said that because I think in the beginning of this Accademia Giallo journey, you said something reminiscent of what you just said in terms of that little circuit that eventually burns off, and then you're able to enjoy these things.
Like, this is great. Yeah.
Although I do have to say, the one thing that drove me crazy, and I'm glad I listened to the commentary. I know I keep talking about this. I'm not trying to like sell this disc, although if you do buy it, I don't think you're going to regret it. But Henkel talks about the fact that this elevator, which is almost another character in the film, because we're in elevators a lot. He said that that's not a real elevator. It was a set that they built because they wanted to do all this crazy stuff with the camera, which makes sense because at one of the later scenes, I think it's when Edwige is in the elevator, I noticed it's wood paneling, but there's wrinkles in it, almost like it's wallpaper.
Wallpaper.
But yeah, I didn't know what was going on. I was like, okay, that totally makes sense now. Before we go on, I hate to interrupt class, but we do have some comments. I pull over and acknowledge some folks.
Jonas,
hello America. Hello Jonas. Great to see you. Big Swifty says this is the movie I tell people to watch first who have no idea what a Giallo is.
There Excellent.
You go. Perfect.
This one covers all the bases.
All the bases.
Wait, not quite all, because for me,
yes.
Okay, two things. Is that 4? Seeing double because I have not had enough J&B or maybe too much. That's one of my points. No J&B in this movie. There are other alcohols, but you don't have the green bottle.
Right.
Secondly, Killer wears sort of mustard yellow plastic or rubber gloves. That's fine. It works. But, I'm a purist. I want to see the black gloves with the black stocking and the black hat. That's just me, though.
Oh, yes.
So,
but those are reminiscent of the gloves. Like, you see those gloves, like, they pop up every once in a while. In like other gloves. Yeah, like, but that brownish weird color, like, that's also in Black Belly of the Tarantula.
But is that one that's not really a Giallo? No, I'm kidding.
I like that he went all the way back to Blood and Black Lace to get his wardrobe. He's like, I got the hat, I got the stocking, I got the trench coat.
I like the fact,
and then the bathtub scene, like I feel like there's like little, just like, remember this from this, and remember this from this,
and there's. I don't want to go through the entire audio commentary, but you guys keep bringing things up. There is something that I had not picked up on with regard to this this character. I'm going to get her name right. Mizar. I keep wanting to call her Mirza, but it's Mizar. She is such a formidable presence during that striptease wrestling show. That she doesn't take anything from anybody. She's very much like down to business. Like when she encounters the corpse in the elevator, she leaves the other two people to handle it. She's like, I got to go to work. Right. So, but what's interesting is when she gets taken out, the killer sucker punches her knocks her out, and then she wakes up. She's already tied up and in the bathtub. So he doesn't give her any type. He doesn't do like the stalking and jumping out or anything. He has to take her by surprise because on some level he realizes that he probably wouldn't stand a chance.
And especially if you realize who the killer is at the end, it's like, that's, you know.
But he could take those stairs. I think he would have had.
I'm telling you, that guy's awesome.
Very tactical.
That is like the guy I aspire to be.
Without the murdering and
you know, a little just on Mondays.
Hey, tomorrow's Monday, and it's also a very special day, and we're not going to tell anybody why.
That's right. That's right.
Brian, we're not going to tell anybody why. We've decided that we have to leave it a mystery as to why.
It's a glorious day, though.
Some people,
fantastic.
Some people need to celebrate.
Right.
John, how you doing over there?
How's it going, John?
Sorry, what? I can't hear you. What?
Oh, that's a sign of getting older.
I wanted to bring up another point.
Yes.
That I had slightly issues with, and again, I'm being very nitpicky. You
don't say, John.
As I said, it's very subtle. But when I think it's Marilyn is murdered in the street, nobody seems to notice that she's been stabbed.
No, I know. I was just like, this is a commentary on Italy, you know.
Yeah, which actually could happen today. Even probably the same thing would happen. Other than today people would get their phones out.
Right.
Years later, that whole like broad daylight murder happens in Tenebrae again. You know, so
it was troubling to me.
Yeah,
it was crazy, man. And I would have a nitpick as well, because there was, I think, an attempt to paint George Hilton's Andrea character as the suspect.
Yes,
because several times
we see. Well, but in this scene particularly, when Marilyn is walking through the street with her groceries or whatever, and then she does the Friday the 13th thing with like, oh, hi. And then she gets, stabbed right through the gut. You know that she knows the killer. And then she drops everything. She stumbles along, and then she runs into George Hilton's character. But there's almost this idea of like, and I think the crowd thinks it reasonably so, because he collapses, she collapses in his arms. But like, is the audience supposed to think that, she at once recognizes this guy, he stabs her, moves a few feet away, and then she goes up to him and is like dying in his arms, is like, oh, I'm sorry you tried to kill me and just succeeded. It was weird.
She doesn't get a chance to say anything. And I think that's why it was able to kind of ride that line as to what was she coming to him like going, why did you stab me? Or help me. We don't get anything. And I'm like, it's just ambiguous enough that I was like, okay, I'll buy it.
Look,
this is when you could get stabbed with a 3 or 4 inch blade and die within a couple of 30 seconds.
He could have reached into her, really gotten in there. But no, AC, I think you just came up with the title for a Giallo. You stabbed me, now help me. I think that's a great one. Yeah,
I'm just going to throw it out there. I thought Marilyn as a character was awesome. She's such a great counterpoint to everybody else in the movie. Yeah. She's ridiculous and she's completely inappropriate at all times. And I really liked her as a counterpoint, especially to Edwige Fenech's Jennifer. Yep. It's like, how did these two ever end up together as friends?
Imagine having her as a roommate.
The bathroom stuff would be okay.
Well,
look, I speak of that
during that conversation, and then the first thing she jumps to is like, "Oh, they should try strangling."
Right.
It's like, what? Where did that come from?
The bathroom scene though, when they break down the door and they discover that Marilyn is in the bathtub drowning, or they think she's drowned. Then she opens up her eyes and then jumps out and she's all covered in suds, and then she laughs.
Yep.
George Hilton's character socks her, punches her, and it's this cartoon. It reminded me of in Terrence and Phillip in the South Park movie when they slap Brooke Shields in the talk show. It's like whoosh. It's bonkers. And there's another one of those somewhere in this movie too. What's that?
I think when he sucker punches her,
slap. It just felt very orchestrated in that way.
Yeah, so it's bold. I love our cops in this movie because
my God, yeah.
the main inspector is, as we mentioned, kind of a pig, but he's got this weird obsession with stamp collecting to the point where he goes and you think that when he goes to the apartment of the first, I can't remember if it was the first murder girl or if it was the second, but he sees a letter on a mantle and he pockets it and is like, oh, what clue has he found? And I realized, oh no, he's stealing evidence from a crime scene because he wants the stamp.
And the way he does it, he feels grimy, like he's just like, just kind of doing it on the down low or whatever. And that's the thing, like I love that's what makes this movie so great for me, because there's never a dull moment. All the characters are great. The photographer, that guy
Arthur,
like it's crazy in it. Like you're sitting there and you're watching and like, wait, what? Like there's nothing that like that makes you want to fall asleep or whatever. This whole movie.
See, and at the same time, I think before that little circuit burns out, like everything that we're celebrating are the things that people be like, what is up with this movie? Like it doesn't make any sense. The characters are all cartoons, and like we go off on these side tangents. I love that that flower. I mean, we got our irises, the flower throwing flashback onto Edwige Fenech's body.
Right. Remember this scene?
I'm like, when did this happen? I was like, is this a flashback? Is this a dream? What is this? I don't care.
That body paint photo shoot is one of the most iconic. Like if you're super innocent, you walk in from the street and then you just type in Giallo in the Google search, right? That image, I'm 100% sure will pop up. It's just such an iconic Edwige Giallo moment,
Yep.
We were talking about Arthur the photographer. One of the other bits I picked up from watching the extras on this disc, they talked about him and also the person who played the main inspector. Yep, that one. Okay, so Arthur was played by Oreste Leonello. I'm probably butchering that. And the commissioner, our stamp collecting fanatic, Gianpiero Albertini. They both had like great voice acting careers outside of this. The commissioner was actually the dub for Peter Falk on Columbo when it ran over on Italy.
Oh, nice.
In Italy, and then our photographer was the voice of Woody Allen for all of those movies.
I totally buy that.
That is great.
Yep.
But yeah, we'll go for a few more comments because we got sidetracked. But let's see.
Well, we got awesome people in the wings today, so keep those comments coming.
Yep.
All right. Swifty also says, written by Gestaldi, produced by Martino, amazing score by Nikolai. Yep. It's the trifecta, and then you've got the Fenech Hilton combination. So that's the quad. I don't know. We've also got Spaceball 2020. Yay! Edwige Fenech and Hilton. Yes. Well, thank you, Spaceball. We also appreciate our marquee actors, Fenech, Hilton, Rigaud as the professor, and even our bug-eyed Italian Peter Lorre Pigozzi makes an appearance. Glove killer, high fashion, unfortunate, stereotypical gay character, etc. Here's the thing, like, I don't know if he
Do we know he's gay? Do we know? Like,
no, he's just fey.
He's a photographer.
And he has no interest. And he has
that's what it is.
I'm in the theme of this film.
He has no interest in the women at all.
Yeah, he's gay for his work. I don't know.
He makes love to the camera, like while he's shooting. Like he's literally making love to the camera.
I don't want to see that.
As soon as you make your point, Ian, I have another point. So make your point.
I don't know if I had a point to make, so you're probably saving me from saying something terrible.
So the voice act, we were talking about the voice acting because the scene where somebody comes in and says, "Oh, I understand you're British," to Jennifer, and then suddenly she's British for like 3 sentences, and then she stops being British. And I was like, "What just happened?" So I really, really love that.
I get like I do want to talk about like all the red herrings in this. I mean, first of all, there's the whole sex cult thing. I mean, it's even in the synopses that you see for this film. It really has nothing to do with that. Again, we're talking spoilers.
Sells those tickets though.
It does, and we do get some some kind of like orgy ritual kind of flashbacks or whatever they are. But I love that it's not that, because we already have seen that in other Giallo that we've talked about. So it's kind of refreshing. I love that the old lady who lives in the other apartment, she goes to the newsstand and all she buys is like horror magazines, comic books, and obituaries.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, okay, that's really strange. But then later, when we find out she's keeping her deformed son in secret in this building, and she's got this little cubbyhole nest for him, and that's where she's getting the comics. Including, did you guys catch the name of the comic book that she bought from the newsstand?
It registered, but I've lost it.
Yeah. Killer Man, and it's got
Killer
like
Man,
yes. And it's got a Giallo style slasher guy on the cover, and I was like, this is perfect. But no, the real killer, as unfortunately, this is going to be a somewhat shorter episode because I got like another 15 minutes because we're doing stuff. That's why we're talking an hour early today, so we're just going to speed round through the greatness of this show, or this movie and the show. Why not? The killer is the father of our lesbian character Sheila. I hate that I have to say that because that's kind of her main thing. I love that she gets killed by mistake.
Yep.
Yeah. And there's this whole bit where Sheila and Jennifer are going down to the bowels of this building. They're in like Freddy's boiler room for Nightmare on Elm Street, and the killer is in the shadows. He opens up the steam valve that practically melts poor Sheila, and she dies. Not quickly enough, but long enough to say, "Help me!" And then she realizes that she can't, and then she collapses. But later on, when it turns out it's the dad with this great. Another, again, red herring of he's playing the violin. We see him playing the violin, but then as Jennifer goes over to the apartment seeking refuge from our killer, it turns out it's just a reel-to-reel tape. It was a setup all along, and the deformed son is dead, and everything's falling apart around her. I realized that, okay, so it's not the deformed son, it's the old man, and those comics were all for him. It just it makes... There's so many layers. All this stuff just comes flooding out in the last 10 minutes of this movie, which is also when the bonkers story and creative camera work really come to the fore. I was about to fall off my couch watching the struggle over the ledge of the stair railing going all the way down the full length of the apartment, because our killer, our old man, dumps the one body, deformed guy, down the shaft. You see the body, and it's not a shitty dummy. It really looks convincing. He knocks his way down the shaft.
Shitty dummy.
It's not. And then he's about to dump her, and she finally comes to, and there's a struggle. And then George Hilton shows up out of nowhere, and I swear, I thought they were both gonna go over, and that would be the tragedy end of the film. But just the way that the old man lands, where the one glove is in extreme foreground and we see the head in the background, a very subtle pooling of blood. It's bonkers. There's so much set up in this movie visually that you have to kind of turn your head and be like, what exactly am I looking at? Oh my God, that's what that is. Like the reveal of Sheila's body when the police inspector comes and looks at it. I didn't realize that was her face in the extreme foreground. I thought it was just machinery or something that he was looking to know. It was her deformed corpse.
Can I do a little salute to our guy who plays the professor, George?
Yes, please do.
We have talked about him numerous times. Actually, he's in Eyeball, Horror Express, Knife of Ice, Death Walks on High Heels, and Lizard in a Woman's Skin. And
I think we've talked about two of those.
Well, we talked about Eyeball, we talked about Death Walks on High Heels, and Lizard in a Woman's Skin, I think.
Did we talk about Death Walks on High Heels?
I don't know.
I'll have to go back and look.
Did we?
I don't know.
We either did that or Death Walks at Midnight. I can't remember which one.
If we didn't, we need to do it because I love it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did.
When they're eating the seafood.
That's the one with the twins, right? Or the sisters? Death Walks on High Heels?
You gotta get more specific with that.
Well, there's a dark-haired sister, and there's a blonde sister, and there's a castle that they go off to.
That's half the movies I watch, and not even for this show.
Anyway, we can easily look back. Anyway, Georges Regard, I love seeing his face pop up because he's got a
castle. It's a lighthouse.
It's not a lighthouse. I know that. I saw that movie. But anyway, I just think he's got such a great face, similar to Luciano Pigozzi. And I went back through his credits, and I was like, look at how many times he shows up in the 60s and 70s. He's just a staple, as we've said, of Italian.
Staple. Who else is a staple?
I don't know.
He also was in another film with a guy that wears a mask all the time.
He was the Santo movie, right?
He was in Santo versus Dr. Death.
Yep.
Which I haven't seen. This reminds me of the other day when I was talking about Richard Gant's appearance in Jason Goes to Hell: The Final Friday, and Brian, it went so far past like over your head. I was embarrassed for myself for thinking you'd get that reference.
I'm not a Friday. I'm sorry. Like I don't know what put it out there that I'm a Friday the 13th fan. Like I love.
But you know horror movies, man.
I also want to mention or add to the fact that I didn't realize that when you're demoted from the police department, you go to the fire department.
Fire department. That's the next level down. Oh, you can't make it as a cop. If you can't make it as a cop, I guess you can be a firefighter.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's how they work it in Italy, but that seemed like wow. And then even the assistant or whatever his assistant inspector, he's like,
Renzi,
do you have to be smart to be a fireman? You're like, what?
Well, I mean, they do run toward the fire. I mean, how smart can they be?
Well, that is true. But again, going back to how this fits into the Giallo, you do have somewhat incompetent police. The main inspectors, I don't remember if it was Hilton or somebody, or maybe it was Edwige, where he's just almost accusing him. Well, you did this and you could have done this.
Yep.
Well, I know it's not you, but anyway.
Just pointing out all the ways it could be you.
Yeah. So are you trying to get a confession out of someone that you know is not the killer?
Hey, whatever solves the case, I got lunch to eat.
That's when he was in Bardo's office, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Renzi, the assistant, is so incompetent that he gets into the elevator with his supervisor and forgets to press the button.
Yep. But he knows.
I think at one point the inspector hangs his head. He does, and he eats a lot during this movie. But during the bit where he ends up pursuing George Hilton through the street after Marilyn's death, it turns out they didn't get a permit to shoot that. They're just like, hey, let's just film this chase scene and hope no one calls the cops.
Speaking of, we were talking about how Georges Regard, like as an older guy performing all of these feats of murderous strength. I'd also like to point out that Renzi bolts straight down that block at full tilt. And when he gets to the end, there's a nice close up on him. He ain't even breathing hard. So maybe there's something in the Italian water over there.
It's weird because I thought the same thing. I was waiting for him to catch his breath.
He's just like, what else you got? Shall I sprint again?
And
I wonder if that was the first take. Yeah.
And then like he keels over.
There was one other point because we were talking about red herrings and divergent paths. We wander into that junkyard with Edwige toward the end. And I actually wrote a note of climax in junkyard. And I'm like, well, clearly this is where the climax is going to be. It's like, nope, it's just a little side turn where we've precipitously stacked all of these cars that are constantly falling over. And then she leaves. And I was like, what the hell was that there for? I mean, that can't have cost nothing to go to a junkyard and have like cars tipping over. And it's like, it's there for like 2 minutes of the movie.
It's funny that you do mention that because it was like, I thought of a point earlier and then like this just brought it back. But it feels like it says it's written by Gestaldi. Like it almost feels like Gestaldi was like, you know what? Here's a stack of shit that I've never.
Here's all the post-it notes,
and they're just because if you think about it, that's what this movie feels like. It's got a lot of great set pieces.
Yep.
But like you said, some of them are just kind of left there, like nothing to do. Like it almost feels like it was something written on a page that they were like, yes, we got to go to a junkyard.
Clearly there's a junkyard,
and then we got to go to the boiler room, and then we got to do this, and we got to utilize the elevator, and then like it just feels like a mishmash of all. I think that's what makes it great, and for me, I think that's what makes it that film that you just leave in the background on like Giallo Tea Party, or I'm sorry, a J&B.
I was like, what? Who does that?
I don't know. I love what you're talking about with the post-it notes. It's sort of like all the post-it notes of the dark. The very end of this film, you expect, okay, we're going to see our two lovers kind of like, oh, everything's okay and it's a new day. We do go to a new day, but we also do I got to say, it's kind of a bullshit horror movie ending, not a Giallo ending. because we have another, we presume, call girl going into a phone booth and calling and saying, the person is a woman who says, yeah, come right up. I'm like, okay, what's this all about? We got a freeze frame and credits. And like,
Sheila's not dead after all.
Yeah. But she wasn't the.
What's funny is years ago when I think this was the only release that was out there, right? It was on YouTube, and I remember like watching it, like because like there are certain things that you can do on YouTube where you can like, splice certain footage that you may need for another purpose or whatever. But this particular, like I clicked on it, and it was like, it started and then it ended and then it started again and then it ended again. Like I think it replayed 3 times, like on that particular YouTube video or whatever. And weird. It's like, wow, it's weird, but it does end like that in such a way that you could splice that beginning right there. So it just kind of keeps on going.
That's funny. I had one other thing sorry, I saw you were taking a breath. What's up? Were you going to wrap things up?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but I mean,
you gotta go.
Hey, I'll make time for y'all. I don't even have a pass to get out of class, really. So how far can I push this classroom thing? AC, go for it.
I said one more dumb thing I want to mention because it made me laugh, and that's when Marilyn, after she gets stabbed and like she's bleeding down Andrea, like the crowd noises. Anybody who listens to this movie, just listen to the crowd noises where they're like, oh, he killed her. No, he didn't. No, we don't know. I mean, like they paid off whoever the voice extras were. They were working overtime because then they're like, oh, then Edwige shows them like, oh, well, she must know something. Well, it's so great. Just play that part over and over and over again.
It is, yeah. It is crazy, and I did like that. I did like that crowd scene because I was thinking about like, because I know a lot of this was kind of filmed Gonzo style, like we're not going to worry about permits or anything, and I wondered how much of that was done in post, as they say.
Sure.
But yeah, it did feel like, at least looking at the crowds and the energy, it felt like a pretty real reaction. I could just imagine being there on that day when they're filming this, or any Giallo movie. That's got to be wild. But yeah, I think this is a good primer on the genre. And I think there's a lot to love in it. There's just something I can't quite put my finger on. Maybe it's because it doesn't have the degree of gore to it, like the opening elevator slash across the throat. I mean, it was practically paint or just like a really thin line, and I think I had De Palma in my head with Angie Dickinson, and I just couldn't get that out of my head, which is unfair to the film. But I think the rest of it, this is, I think, one of Edwige Fenech's, based on what I've seen of her, one of her strongest performances. I mean, she really is called upon to act. I think that behind the strange vice of Mrs. Ward, I think this is probably my favorite of what I've seen of hers. Any objections or like this wasn't very good?
No, like I was actually going to back up what you were saying in terms of just like that blood, that the way that blood looks, that's very much celebrated in terms of like being a fan of these films. So it's almost like the faker and the more beautiful the blood looks, the better or whatever. And in this movie, that's what and I don't know if it was done on purpose or whatever, but after a while it's like that's what it looks like in these Italian movies. But yeah, like the way that Edwige looks in this movie, I think is so iconic. I think it's almost like they were to really bottle whatever whatever people were attracted to in the earlier incarnations of these Giallo movies, because this is like right in the sweet spot of like that golden age. 1972, I believe, this came out.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's very much like this. I think this director is more well known for his spaghetti westerns and whatnot. So when he sat down to make this movie, it was almost like, well, like let's dig through that stack of
post-it notes.
Post-it notes, yeah, and then like put her in it. We know that her and George go great together.
Yep.
Let's throw in some some people that are like familiar with the style.
Follow that recipe to the letter.
And then this is what came out, and to me it's like it's one of those where it's not talked about enough, like in these Giallo circles. But if you finally enter like this world of cinema, this is definitely one that like you'll definitely go to again, because it just, like I said, it just has so many flourishes of the genre, and it just sounds so goddamn sexy too.
It does. And I will say, I think this is a good entry point for Giallo, but I would not watch The Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward afterwards, because you've got another scene where someone is like pouring something on Edwige Fenech. It seems a bit repetitive, but no, that actually the one thing I did want to mention, I forgot. One of George Hilton's character's alibis sort of is he has this traumatic aversion to the sight of blood.
Yep.
And we don't quite know why until the very end of the movie, when he has a flashback to what you're laughing, AC.
I'm laughing because were we really all that worried about why he has his phobia of blood? We weren't, but they're like, we got to just tie that up just in case anybody's confused.
But it's funny because he's so sort of impenetrable throughout this entire movie that the one time we get a look into what's going on inside of his head, it's kind of like the way Christopher Nolan handled Bruce Wayne's origin in Batman Begins, with these quick shots of like the bats and the well and the falling into it and everything. You can really flash on that trauma. Here, it's just him in a car accident and his father's blood dripping down and splatters on his face. Like, oh my God, he's been carrying this around the entire time. So when Jennifer cuts her finger on like a can opener or something early on, and he kind of like, oh my God. And then he has that really strange reaction when Marilyn comes up to him in the street and she's covered in blood. It's a suspicious reaction, but it's also a paralyzed freeze up reaction. And once we see that bit at the end, it doesn't mean anything to the story, but it's a nice bit of character.
No,
I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're like, we have to sew this up just so that we all know.
But you didn't. I mean, that's the thing is like,
you don't need it
at that
at
point.
all.
You kind of can, by that point in the story, you forget about the blood phobia and everything. We know who the killer is, but Gestaldi circles back. Yeah. To your point, to use your phrase, sews it up. And I think it's beautiful. I think as much as this movie has Giallo problems that we've kind of discussed, there's also a lot more you can dig into thematically to see, well, they really did pay attention to X, Y, and Z detail. Right. And you can find out more about those details. I'm going to close this out again with another shameless plug. Yes. The cool thing about this, the slipcase for the case of the Bloody Iris,
right? I love it.
Celluloid Dreams. It's got the American title here.
Makes it work.
It's got the wall of text Italian title on the back, and also
drops of blood doing on with Jennifer's body.
I don't know. And again, if you order directly from Celluloid Dreams, I think this is their first release, and it's a pretty stunning debut. But you can also get these crazy lobby card reproductions. Oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but maybe
I hung them up in the family room.
Brian, I believe you. Okay, everybody. Thanks. I know we got to run. Oh, wait, hold on a second. Yeah, one more question or comment from David Will. Thanks for joining. This movie feels like it was straight out of Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, with the assuming heroine being slaughtered during the first half of the movie. That's what I thought.
Fair enough.
And I was, again, I'm glad the movie turned out to be, in my opinion, as strong as it did, because I was really kind of bummed out that we lost who I thought was going to be sort of our protagonist in the opening. She drowned in the bathtub. Damn. Anyway, thanks everybody for hanging out, for spending some time with us talking about the case of the Bloody Iris. It's not about it's not about eyeballs. It's all about flowers and all about love. I'm Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seats. We have AC Horror 101 with Dr. AC Aaron Christensen. Thank you for joining. We got John Kitley of Kitley's Crypt and Brian Martinez of the Giallo Room. What do you want to say?
I just want to say, John, have a great and happy day tomorrow. You have a happy day. Have a happy Monday, sir.
Yes.
I love you. I love you,
John, you haven't spoken in like 40
looking
minutes.
Up at me?
I know, right?
Is there really anything to say after that?
No,
dude, he looked up to you because he was like, why did you ever introduce me to this jackass?
His name's Kevin.
Good point. Good point.
Wow. All right. I'd be remiss if I didn't. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention. Speaking of Friday the 13th, if y'all, I know y'all have seen this. The Music Box Theater in Chicago. Plug, not plug. Next month, there's gonna be a Friday the 13th on September 13th, and they're showing all 8 movies, all the Paramounts for a 24-hour marathon. So go check that out.
24 hours.
It's not 24. I thought it was like
from
noon to.
to 2 or 3 in the morning.
Oh, okay. So however long it takes to show all those movies, go check it out. Brian, I probably will not be there because that's way too long, way too late, but I'll be there in spirit. I'll promote the hell out of it because I think it's an awesome idea. There's gonna be like people recording podcasts and there's gonna be vendors there. Kitley, are you gonna be there?
I would have been. Unfortunately, that's the same weekend as Horror Hound weekend, so I will be in Cincinnati.
Yeah, you got a franchise, man. You got to have people covering all the conventions.
I will be hosting on the Horror 101. I'll be hosting a stream of Friday the 13th Part 4, which is celebrating its 40th anniversary this year.
What on Friday the 13th?
On Friday the 13th.
Day?
On that day.
There you go.
From the music box?
Not from the music box, just from my house.
Close by.
Yes, which is not too far away.
You should record it from just outside the music box, an unsanctioned podcast. All right, well, I got to run, but thank you everybody for tuning in, for hanging out. This has been Accademia Giallo, the Case of the Bloody Iris. I wanted to say the Case of the Bloody Eyeball, but again, it's about flowers, not eyes. And till next time, whenever that is, whatever that is, probably Death Walks on High Heels or whatever the other one is. I don't know, but yeah. Thank you. Take care. And what are you doing, Brian?
Giallo.
Yes.
For years.
Just
Accademia Giallo.
Just sign off, Ian. You got this.
Signing off. Goodbye. I'll ring the bell.